Two people walked into the same office on the same Monday morning. Same education, same paycheck, same opportunities. 20 years later, one never worried about money again. The other still watched the calendar, waiting for payday. That shouldn't happen. If two people start in almost the same place, why do they end up living completely different lives? For years, I thought I already knew the answer. The wealthy one must have been smarter, or more disciplined, or simply worked harder. Those explanations sounded reasonable, until I started meeting people who destroyed every one of them. I met engineers solving problems most people couldn't even understand. Doctors making life-changing decisions every day. Executives responsible for budgets bigger than entire neighborhoods. Brilliant people, disciplined people, successful people. Yet every month, they still felt trapped by the next paycheck. That didn't make sense. If intelligence created wealth, why weren't they already free? So I blamed discipline instead. I watched people who woke up before sunrise, never skipped the gym, read constantly, planned every hour of every day. From the outside, they looked unstoppable. Some quietly built wealth. Many quietly didn't. Then I blamed income. Maybe the answer was simply earning more. Except I kept meeting people whose salaries increased every year, while their financial stress somehow increased with them. The more evidence I collected, the less my theories survived. It wasn't IQ. It wasn't discipline. It wasn't income. 3 explanations. 3 dead ends. So I stopped asking why some people became wealthy. Instead, I started asking a much stranger question. What happens during the first few minutes after payday? That nobody ever talks about. It sounded ridiculous. How could a few ordinary minutes matter that much? But the more I watched, the more I realized those few minutes weren't ordinary at all. They were the beginning of 2 completely different futures. And once I started paying attention, I noticed something almost everyone else walked straight past. The first time I watched those first few minutes after payday, I almost laughed at myself. Nothing looked unusual. People checked their bank balance, answered a few texts, stopped for coffee, picked up groceries, drove home. Life simply continued. Then I started watching the people who quietly became wealthy. Their payday looked almost identical. No complicated spreadsheet, no dramatic sacrifice, no secret investment strategy. If you'd passed them on the street, you would have never guessed they were slowly buying their freedom. That was the part one couldn't explain. The difference wasn't big enough to notice in a day, or even a month. You had to watch it happen, over and over and over again. At first I kept searching for one defining decision. The moment everything changed, it never came. Instead, I found hundreds of tiny decisions. Each one looked almost meaningless by itself. But together, they pointed in completely different directions. One afternoon, I watched a man pick up a jacket he could easily afford. He looked at it, smiled, then quietly put it back. Not reluctantly, not proudly, just calmly. There wasn't a fight happening inside his head. A week later, I watched someone else. Same paycheck, same store, same price tag, different conversation. I've worked hard. I deserve this. I'll save more next month. I recognized that voice immediately, because I'd heard it before, inside my own head. That's when everything finally clicked. The difference wasn't what they bought. It wasn't what they earned. It wasn't even what they could afford. It was the question they asked themselves before they made the decision. One person kept asking, "What do I want today?" The other quietly asked, "What would the person I'm becoming choose?" That sounds like almost nothing. It changes almost everything. Because once that question changes, the decision changes before your wallet ever opens. That's why the people who quietly built wealth didn't seem to fight themselves every payday. The battle had already been won long before the purchase. And that's the part almost everyone misses. Wealth isn't built the day your bank account finally looks impressive. It's built the day your future becomes louder than your impulses. That's why 2 people can earn the same paycheck, live in the same city, work in the same office, and still disappear into completely different lives. Not because one discovered a secret, because one slowly became the kind of person their future required. Your bank account is usually the last place your life changes. It changes in your thinking first. So before your next payday, don't ask, "What can I afford?" Ask, "What would the person I'm trying to become choose?" Because the future you eventually live is usually created by the questions nobody else ever hears you ask. If this changed the way you think about wealth, you'll find more stories like this here. Sometimes one invisible pattern is worth more than 100 pieces of financial advice.